Good day, fellow viewer, and welcome to the, 8th season of Hammer D20, the show that didn't anticipate it would go on for this long. My name is Steven Sobot, and I will be your guide. Now, many of you know, after watching episodes of this show, that I have covered the nerd scene around the Hamilton joint, if you will, searching under every rock for all the tasty morsels that we all live under. But this season, I would like to kind of switch it up a bit and move into more movie, television, and media review in some way. I've done a bit of that in previous episodes, so I figure let's try to keep it like that and see where we can go from there. So I hope you enjoyed this, kind of switch the format, if you will. And without further ado, let's move on to our first film-based episode, which is going to be a precursor to the Hamilton Film Festival. So for this episode, I got in contact with Nathan Fleet, the Hamilton Film Fest director, about seeing if I can get an advanced screening of some of the movies that are going to be playing at the end of October during the film festival, so that I can then review them for this episode, have it screen, have the episode air throughout October, so that you can get an idea as to what you can kind of get into if you're looking to watch the Hamilton Film Festival on your own time. The 18th annual festival will be running from October 21st to the 29th, and will be screened at the Ancaster Memorial Arts Center, the Westdale Theatre, the Staircase Theatre, and the Playhouse Theatre. There are around 13 categories of films, as well as a slew of different feature films featured during this week at different locations. Some of the categories are for comedic shorts, local films, emerging and new filmmakers, foreign shorts, and Loft, or Ladies of Film and Television category, just to name a few. So for this episode, I'm going to go through some of these categories, watch a couple of the films, give them a review, so you have an idea as to what you'll be getting into if you head down to the Hamilton Film Festival. Steven, over to you. Thanks, Steven. To start, we're going to look at a couple Hamilton filmmakers and their films in the local shorts opening night gala category, with the film 14th Floor, directed by Tiffany Weiss, a director who I've reviewed some of their work last year. 14th Floor is a short horror film about a young couple who just recently purchased an apartment room in a mysterious and unassuming apartment building, only to find the building's a little more odd than they first assumed. When they arrived on their floor and started looking for their room number, they noticed that the doors aren't numbered, but are identified by odd symbols, and the exit sign looks completely off. That, and they can't seem to find their way to an actual exit, with the fire exit being locked, and the path they just took leading back to more and more hallways. As they try to call for help to one of the potential tenants, they find an unusual person standing in the middle of the hallway, but then they turn around to reveal themselves to be a monster and start chasing them. How does it end? Well, you're going to have to go down to the festival to check it out. This film has great composition and that feeling of atmospheric dread. The monotony of the apartment building only accentuates the repetition of the situation they're in. Room after room of basically nothing other than doors. Kind of just reminds you about how drab most apartments are, especially new ones, where everything is basically cookie cutter and made to look the same. I won't ruin the ending, but the end is a bit ambiguous in a way, which makes me wonder what kind of world this is where this zombie thing exists and is normal in this world. Overall, I recommend this and hope there's a sign of more things to come. I also watched You're Invited, a 15-minute dark comedy directed by Aviva Armour-Ostrov, which is about a group of survivors who are living through the apocalypse in their suburban backyard. It features a young pregnant woman who's making a social media post about her baby shower, which has gunshots going off in the distance, but shows the post through a filter, showing a nice table spread image, only to reveal that it's actually canned vitamin shakes and rotten food. The party guests, or other survivors that live in their place, finally show up, and she continues her social media influencer persona while asking them about how they've fared being inches away from death, while treating it just like it's a funny, oh, this is my life, ugh, first world problems, am I right, kind of social media post. Every character has, in some way, gone mad and is coping through this in their very own way. As mentioned, the main character is stuck in an influencer mindset and gets childishly angry when things aren't going exactly her way. She's continuously delusional, getting angry at her mom, who probably isn't her actual mom, for running out of ink in their only pen, which the mom then uses her own blood for ink instead. And gets pissed when a new survivor joins them who's also pregnant, who's taking attention away from her thunder. The whole film is insanely hilarious from start to finish for me, and it's the kind of short film I'm looking for. A small concept, explained well, with a presumably small budget that doesn't show in the end product, because the acting, lighting, and writing are all done well. Probably my favorite part of the whole short is when her brother-in-law shows up with the group of survivors. He's probably the only sane person there, wearing extensive defensive gear and getting concerned when some of the other survivors start coughing. So, the group shows up, and the main character's like, "Oh, welcome to the party! Share with my followers what your life's all about and how you know me." And then each of them explain their situation, and then when it gets to him, he's morose and deadpan, explaining how his wife, or the main character's sister, died a couple days ago. Now, while this is all happening, she's using a filter on her phone that got him in that annoying orange-looking filter that magnifies his eyes and mouth onto a cartoon pickle, while she's basically faking emotions about being sad for her own sister's death. This is a great scene that connects the actual world to the fake world she's tried to create here, where the brother-in-law is trying to reel everyone back into reality, while the rest of them are treating this all like a backyard picnic that they'd have in normal life. It gives me a very Shaun of the Dead vibe, with its odd yet normal civilian characters and product theming of something that wouldn't be funny if it actually happened. I definitely recommend going to watch this one if you can. Our second category is comedy shorts, and we'll start with a film called Lobster Trial. It's a short film directed by Catherine Dyer, filmed in the United States, about a middle-aged couple who are having their daughter and her girlfriend over for a lobster lunch. The parents are discussing her girlfriend's lifestyle, about how she's a vegan and how the father doesn't really get it. He's a little pig-headed, but nothing too overbearing. The daughter is trying to prepare her girlfriend for them because she knows her dad can be somewhat insensitive and is, as the film claims, the king of all dad jokes, to kind of paint the picture of what kind of man he is. When they first arrive, they seem to be getting along nicely until they bring out the live lobsters that they're going to boil and start acting a judge and jury situation where the father sentences them to death by boiling. The girlfriend is disgusted by this and thinks that they're all crazy for thinking this is normal, while the rest of the family thinks she's just overreacting. It ends with them making the lobsters and then her eating some, realizing how tasty it actually is. The film is decently funny and acted well, but it has me at a bit of a loss. Throughout the film, they're treating veganism as a irrational fad, which in a normal film fest film is when the film brings out its poignant narrative or swaps it and has the parents boiling alive or something drastic to prove a point. But in the end, it just has them eating them without a point other than veganism is still silly. To be honest, I think it can be silly at times, but as long as you're not imposing yourself on others, then let others do what they want. Regardless, it's still a good film, and if all I'm arguing is about the theming of film, then at least it's well made. The next film is another in the comedy category called Henchman, a 15-minute Canadian film directed by Andrew Dickau, which follows around a henchman, or henchperson in this case, Robin, who's brought into film crew to film a safety and recruitment video for future employment at a supervillain's headquarters. Robin goes around with the crew to demonstrate the benefits of working under the enigmatic Pops, their leader, while getting sidetracked with the general incompetence of the people working in the building. At some point as they're filming, the crew witness an invisible superhero, or anti-hero most likely, that raid the base and start destroying it from the inside out without Robin knowing. To be honest, this film's hilarious in concept. A health and safety manager at the supervillain's lair demonstrating the safety of working with someone who's trying to physically destroy the world is just an inherently funny concept. The film, however, seems to be at odds with itself and what it wants to do, and just drags along without much purpose. There's a really funny and overzealous henchman who's a little dopey, and it's implied that he has mental training that was rudimentary, which may have damaged him permanently, turning him into a machine of loyalty, but that doesn't really do much with that. Robin kind of just meanders with her scatterbrained schedule. I still enjoyed it overall, but I feel like it could have been a little tighter in concept. So there's 4 different films from 2 different categories: 14th Floor, You're Invited, Lobster Trial, and Henchman. You can check out the first 2 during the opening night gala on October 21st at 7 p.m. at the Ancaster Memorial Arts Center, and the comedy shorts category near the end of the festival on October 28th at 7 p.m. at the Ancaster Memorial Arts Center as well. But there's a lot more films to check out and a lot more categories to look through, so before we get to that, let's take a short break. See you soon. Welcome back. So before the break, we looked at 4 different films that will be screening during the Hamilton Film Festival, which will happen at the end of October. Let's take a look at a couple more to see what else is in store. So the next film I watched was called Shadowbox, a film that's in the drama shorts category. It's a Torontonian film directed by Pierce Sergo, which features a weathered and down-on-his-luck boxer who's not been fighting well lately, getting berated by his abusive coach, who's trying to get him to do better. He's scheduled to train against an up-and-coming boxer, which he doesn't do too well against, and the coach, who suggested some dirty boxing techniques, is yet again disappointed in him. The boxer then gives up and continues to work his janitorial job, hanging up the boxing gloves. His opponent comes to his work to give him back his gloves out of his locker, which ends the film at an ambiguous mark of, will he actually give up boxing? Realistically, not much happens in this film, narratively. Most of it is in the boxing coach being mentally abusive to him and treating him like dirt, while the boxer isn't taking it as motivation anymore. But when the film does well is its lighting and composition and acting. It really does feel like it's a scene taken from a big-budget boxing movie with excellent camera work and lighting, and the acting and fighting looking real. I'm certain the boxers were actual boxers because all their technique looks too real to be an actor's interpretation. It does leave on a cliffhanger, asking you to want more, which I do, and I think the film is a showcase of what the director can do so they can springboard off into a bigger and more advanced work, which I hope they can get into. The next category I moved on was the Emerging Filmmaker category, which featured films made by new and young artists, some of which graduated from the Hamilton School of Media Arts and the Hammond Acting Studio program, both of which are affiliated with the film festival. The first film I looked at is called Disconnect, a 9-minute short drama from Humber College, directed by Riley Wadden, which is about a young couple who are social media influencers, where the husband questions their own life choices. He suggests she turns off her phone during dinner and just live in the moment, while she continues to be online, thanking the online lifestyle they've cultivated for their own living success. It is revealed that he deleted all his social media presence and is trying to distance himself from that, which creates a rift in their relationship. She then leaves him at the dinner table to pay for the bill, which the waiter says the meal's on the house because the attention they both gave to the restaurant. The film's mostly dramatic, but kinda has a spooky horror aspect to it. The husband's trying to live life normally, while the wife basically suggests that they can't anymore because they're in too deep, and making a scene, like how he was then, will only cause problems which could ruin them. Wouldn't you know, the second he raises his voice, the other patrons of the restaurant start pulling their phones out and start recording them, which, in the end, could be detrimental to their career. There's nothing really I can criticize about the filming and acting. Everyone's pretty much on point, does the job they need to do. I guess I could argue that the social media is bad plot is kind of played out by now, and can come off as pretentious in a, oh, I don't go on social media, aren't I such a better person overall for not doing that? But in truth, yeah, I mean, it's kind of the truth of it. Social media is toxic to your own mental health, making it so you're always comparing yourself to others and aren't even satisfied enough with what you've got. I mean, I get it, but I get that, it'd be tiresome hearing this over and over again, but I completely agree with the sentiment. Anyway, if this film wasn't in the Emerging Filmmakers category, I wouldn't have known. It was done very well and had an intriguing plot that relates to what affects a lot of us. The next category I looked at was animated shorts, with the film Brains, a postmodern Prometheus story. Directed by Jim Doran from the United States, it's an esoteric and wordless film that follows an insectoid scientist being who's trying to create life via what one can interpret as how artificial intelligence creates images through prompts. It plays off like this is the laboratory that your prompt is sent to and the information that you type in, and it spits out the creations that you see, except they're actually being made as beings rather than images. Despite the film being only 5 minutes long, it goes through a whirlwind of imagery and concepts, taking AI-generated body parts and forming them into creation that, in the end, kills all the scientists after it drinks distilled brain juice. It can easily be interpreted in different ways. Will AI destroy us in some way? Are we distilling our own brains into an easy-to-get form, making it so we don't have to use them or think for ourselves? Will we ever learn to trust ourselves or just keep making the same mistakes over and over again? There's quite a lot to such a little film. Either way, in the end, it's a nice, odd little film that kind of plays out like a fever dream. Not like a terrible fever dream, but, certainly not a dream where you're frolicking through the fields like you did when you were a kid. Another animated film I watched was called Llamas at the Laundromat. It's a 2-minute music video directed by Toronto's own Martha Grant, which is a short stop-motion video which has 2 colorful and stylish llamas singing a song about doing their laundry. It's a catchy little song with cute little characters that really just makes me smile when I see them. They got a great character design and general attitude, both having widely varied costumes, and I absolutely love characters that have like a face. It's also got amazingly smooth motion, which is insanely hard to do in stop motion. If you ever worked with stop motion, you'll know that it takes hours, even days, to get a second worth of footage, never mind a whole choreographed dance number with different characters and a designed set with backgrounds and a song to go to it all. The effort definitely was not wasted on me. I absolutely love this piece. Another animated short I saw was New Beginnings, a 2-minute drawn animated short by Hamilton's own Evin Abbas, which is about a war-torn land ravaged by destruction, getting resurrected by 3 friendly little spirits. There's no voices or words, but it doesn't really need to be. There's something overwhelmingly charming about a music-only piece that has great color composition and just a nice, friendly visual that, no matter what, there's always hope to make things better. The whole short is amazingly detailed and definitely took talent to get looking like it did in this. Every frame shows all this beautiful detail and even insignificant things. The grass has different hues and textures, as are rocks and birds that are shown for mere seconds. The author definitely has a passion for art and drawing, and it shows in this piece. I really hope they get some attention for this and are able to transfer this into a fruitful career. The next animated short I watched was called The Pest, a 3-minute drawn animation by Milton's own Jungwoo Choi that follows around a raccoon that keeps opening up a man's garbage bin and eating its contents, making it so the garbage truck doesn't pick it up. The short plays out like a Bugs Bunny short, where the man gets increasingly violent and drastic with his techniques to stop the raccoon from doing that, while the raccoon always finds a way to get to the tasty, delicious garbage inside. The short has no words, but the voices that they use are perfectly short, abrupt, and cartoonish for an animated bit, while the art style is very reminiscent of mid-century modern aesthetic. Its animation speed and style is perfectly timed, and I don't think it could be any better. Its color scheme works well, as the background in all of the man's domain is in shades of blue, while the raccoon is the contrasting orange color, fitting their rivalry perfectly. It's comedically timed perfectly and well worth the watch. The last film I looked at for the time being was one of the feature-length films, Hyperborean, a 94-minute sci-fi horror kind of comedy kind of and drama kind of film directed by Jesse Thomas Cook from Collingwood, Ontario. The film follows a rich and eclectic family, similar to the one in Knives Out, where their father was mysteriously killed at a family gathering they had at his country escape in the middle of the woods. His family members, particularly his daughter Diana, are interrogated by both lawyers and a crisis manager to figure out the truth of the matter, because all the families say that he died because he shot up into space and popped. Now, how does one do that? That's not really what happens in reality. Well, you have to watch the film and see what happens. The film not only focuses on this odd family, but an Arctic expedition that went missing in the 1850s, where one of the crew members got blasted with what looks like an atomic blast, and their body was burnt to a crisp, yet kept alive. The father gathers the family so they can discuss his next business venture, which focuses on a new batch of whiskey he and a crew that he hired found on said missing expedition ship, and how he wants to move all his current operations, that being his current whiskey business, into this new operation, and makes his more useless son, I think, Ian, the head of the operations. To be honest, I'm kind of confused whether Ian is Diana's husband or Ian is just like very close with Diana, because the relationship seems quite close, and I couldn't get the idea that unless there was an incestual relationship. The other two sons, Aldous and Rex, are equally incompetent, one of which owns a failing whiskey bar and the other a failing country restaurant, but are perturbed that they aren't considered for the leadership on this enterprise. As the film moves along, we find that there's more to this whiskey than meets the eye, with a whole slew of hard-to-explain scenarios plaguing this family over and over again, leading to the climax of the film. I really enjoyed this film and found it to be very well done. It captures that rich woodland cottage aesthetic perfectly, as well as that disconnected from reality rich family cast nicely. Everyone's decently incompetent in their own way. The film's generally pretty funny. It's definitely more of a thriller than any other genre. I never got that feeling that it was actors playing characters, but more so characters on screen, which is what you want out of an actor. I will say, it describes itself as a horror film, but I don't know if I'd call it scary. It's just kind of odd. There's a couple of jump scare moments, but realistically, it's not particularly scary. It does linger on the horror elements longer than an average horror film would, which is kind of refreshing, so that you're not just left with the odd shot here, shot there, and everyone's staring in amazement or horror at what they're all looking at. No, they have shots of that thing that they're looking at there and on display. If there is one criticism I can give the film, it's that at the 75% mark of it, around about an hour and 10 minutes in, the film kind of gets lost. I don't know what it was trying to say at the time, and it kind of just got messy narratively. However, it did get explained in the end, which does make it all make sense. It just seems like shot. They just have a big, just one shot after another. Everyone's not sure exactly what happens. Overall, I really like this film, and I was engaged the whole way through, which is nice. It's definitely got a happier ending than one would anticipate from a plot that revolves around a man being dead. So, that's the end of the review. You can check out these different films and the other films in their categories at these times. Hyperborean will be showing on Tuesday, October 24th at 7 p.m. at the Ancaster Memorial Arts Center. Animated shorts will occur on Wednesday, October 25th at 9:30 at the Ancaster Memorial Arts Center again. Emerging filmmakers will occur on Thursday, October 26th at 9:30 p.m. at the Ancaster Memorial Arts Center. And drama shorts will occur on Friday, October 27th at 7 p.m. at, you guessed it, the Ancaster Memorial Arts Center. They're selling festival passes for $100 on the Hamilton Film Festival website, which gives you access to all films at all locations. Or you can go to whichever screening you want, where they will sell tickets at the door. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode. I hope you've got a good idea as to what to expect at the festival and are hoping to go yourself. Next episode, I'll be looking to finish this review and focus on more of the films I haven't talked about yet that I've watched during the festival, so stay tuned for that in November. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you sooner than later.